One could take the money and spend it X way or Y way and not resolve some of those tensions that teachers feel in their lived experience.
Right. It's not just money that is helpful to improve outcomes. It is how you spend the money.
Sure.
But you do need a base amount of investment so that you can achieve standards.
So there are a couple of national studies on this that I think are illustrative. One that was reproduced looking at all the one-time COVID money, and some of these go back a couple of decades. And the best conclusion that I draw from these national studies is that no strings attached money when invested in public education, for every $1,000 of a per pupil budget increase that a district receives, a school system receives, you should expect roughly 4 additional days of learning. Conversely, if there's a $1,000 reduction due to inflation or other reasons, you should expect, on average, a 4-day reduction in learning. That's the ROI model from the best literature that we have around the country on additional investments, which isn't to say that money doesn't matter. $1,000 a kid gets you 4 days. But put in perspective, at about 4.5 months of learning decline as a result of COVID. So at that ROI, you would have to use every element of the Texas GDP solely for education to just catch up with sort of COVID loss. So I think the way that I always try to think about this, especially as I'm looking at literature and whatnot, is what's the highest ROI possible? Where do we get the sort of can you invest $400 per kid and get 40 days instead of $1,000 per kid and get 4?
Right, but if you invested it in paying teachers better so you could keep teachers, have more certified teachers, that would probably be a wise investment. That would be a wise investment of our dollars, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so what we saw in the Dallas experience, I think, is illustrative. So Dallas ended up paying more per teacher than, like the Dallas average salaries are higher than almost everybody in the region. But they also changed the way salaries work. So that there's this sort of staggered, and so a Stanford economist studied this, and from the time period from 2015 to 2019, Dallas closed the racial achievement gap by about 25 percentage points as a result of the selection change in what happened with teacher retention or turnover. And Dallas's turnover prior to this was materially higher than the state's on average, and now Dallas's overall turnover is lower. So that's not just an average wage increase. It was an average wage increase,
right.
But it was also a completely different structure of compensation increases that led to very substantive improvements in teacher retention and very substantive improvements in student learning.
Great.